several food makers who are going to be at Maker Faire this month in New York. This is what I hope will be the first of a series of food-related hangouts. We're going to go for every first and third Wednesdays of the month. That is our plan. And we've got some great guests for this inaugural hangout. Joining us is John Robb. John Robb is the publisher of ResilientCommunities.com. It's a website about surviving what he calls turbulent times. And at Maker Faire, he'll be giving a presentation on resilient communities, what he calls communities that produce food, water, energy, and products, and network with other communities, other like-minded folks. We also have two representatives of FarmHack, Dorn and Severine von Tscharner Fleming. Did I get that right? FarmHack offers farmers new opportunities to work together on tools and innovations that will make farms more sustainable and efficient. On sort of the techie side of things, they collaborate with engineers, designers, architects, and also non-farmers who are all interested in strengthening sustainable agriculture. And finally, we have Jordan Miller. Jordan is a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Pennsylvania. He's a founding member of Hive 76, a hackerspace in Philadelphia. And his research in bioengineering combines chemistry with rapid prototyping. And I'm going to read this, to direct cultured human cells to form more complex organizations of living vessels and tissues. And to illustrate some of that, at Maker Faire, weather permitting, he'll be using a 3D printer to print chocolate and sugar creations that he uses to provide templates for casting vascular networks and wireframes for living tissues. So that's a pretty great range of guests, and just shows you the depth and breadth of what we're going to have at Maker Faire. So, John, why don't we start with you? Give us a little more on your background, and maybe some of how you've reached some of these conclusions about where we're going, sort of societally, economically, environmentally, and you know, what you're proposing, what you think we all need to do about it.
Okay, well, my background's pretty diverse. I was an engineer out of the Air Force Academy, astronautical engineering, satellite design, and I went into the Air Force as a pilot and became a Tier 1 special operator doing counterterrorism for a lot of years, working with Delta and SEAL Team 6. Then I got out and was an analyst at Forrester right when the internet kicked off. And I was their internet guy. So I covered every single internet company between 95 and 97 or so. Came through my doors, got it analyzed. And then I started companies. I started a company called Gomez, an internet company that analyzed brokers and online banks to help people make better decisions as to which one they should choose. And that did pretty well. That sold for $300 million a couple years back.
Not too bad.
Yeah, it's not so bad. At least I made it to last. And then I got into doing a bunch of consulting and building cool software, like a global printer network, where you have 35 different printers where that print out the high-end printing stuff that that marketing departments buy. So
right.
You don't have to ship it via FedEx. All you do is send the file. It gets printed there, so it saves a lot of carbon and stuff. And then I wrote a book on warfare, on where guerrilla warfare and where the world is going, and through that whole process, and the book went out, was pretty successful, and I started seeing that the trends I was seeing in warfare were also going on in economics, and that our economic system, how things were working, were on the wrong track, and they were. No matter what party was in office, because they're kind of the same, and the way the trends were running, we're going to have some tough times. And that these systems that we're relying upon and dependent upon are very, very unstable and tend to go nonlinear on an ongoing basis. So my solution and what I started really working on is helping people put together all the pieces to start building a local economy again. A local economy that's networked with other local economies around the world. A kind of decentralization, a relocalization of what we've been doing in the past. because this old industrial system, this old globalized system is just not up to the task of what we need to do in the next 100 years. It's just becoming apart at the seams. So there's lots of fantastic innovators, and you got a couple on this show today, working on parts of it. What I'm trying to do is put it together so these folks can make money and continue doing what they're doing, and their products can get out into the mix, and that people who want to do this at their community level can pull it off in terms of producing more food and producing more energy, producing more water in terms of rainwater collection, and turning those into businesses, into livelihoods, as well as producing products. And to a small extent, I'm talking about that at the Maker Faire. So it's a panoply of different things.
Well, and you talk about the need to create a new system to replace this one that is what going to crash. That's going to fade away.
It's just not performing. I mean, if you look at the median incomes in the United States, they're about the same as they were in the 70s. And the same thing with the median household income or median household net worth, is the same as it was in the 70s. We haven't made any progress. We haven't, in fact, all the trends are that we're getting less wealthy, less prosperous with each passing year.
Yeah.
So it's not doing the job it's supposed to do. It's not making us better off. And then you look at the environment and look at everything else that's going on. It's just everything is going bad. Shipping product around the world just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff going on in the maker space in terms of and I did this in the printing spaces where you ship a design for a product and build it locally, works a lot better. If you have a design for a permaculture garden that works great in a specific climate zone, sharing that online and making that replicating that around the world where it's applicable makes sense. So you're not shipping the product. You're shipping the knowledge and applying it locally.
Right
so,
on.
Yeah, that's the economy we're going towards. It's just it always looks messy in the very beginning, and I did this in the internet and several times in different industries in the internet, in finance, in '97. We were all kind of gathered around the screen in '97, looking at the first stock ticker quote coming out live on the internet, and it was a big deal, and it looked so. It's such a little cheesy thing, right? And then boom, when it kicked off, the brokers I was talking to saw that 50% of their transactions went online in a year. It changed their business. And the same thing's going on here in all these little innovations. I have some friends over at Factory Farm, over at Open Source Ecology, Marcin and his group, building modular tractors and the like. And those, pair of high school kids just built the first open source tractor the other day.
Very cool.
It's spreading and it's working.
Well, and it sounds like people who are already makers or in the maker space have a leg up on everyone else. They're already sort of realizing this decentralized local economy and means of production. Is that what you're finding?
Well, that's the place where you're actually going to get employment and livelihood and doing something that actually has some meaning. And working in a cubicle, it just doesn't. It's harder to find those jobs, and they lack the kind of meaning that you need to have a really good life. So as all those folks are going through the college mill right now, coming out with their little certificate and finding out that they owe $100,000 and they can't get a job.
Yeah.
And that's happening again and again and again. It's happening in Europe. They can't find jobs in Spain. Where the jobs are is in this local space. It's in creating a new economy. And you have to. There's new ways of thinking about how to do this stuff. Like in farming, there's more landscapers in the United States than there are farmers. So, thinking in terms of how do you rework this is, moving farming more to a service industry, where you're actually having people participate in actually growing their own stuff, and they need the extra help. There's lots of do-it-yourselfers that can do the gardening, and they've been doing it forever. But there are a lot of other people that need the help and need the support of a profession. And it goes well beyond the whole landscaping kind of mentality and the simplicity of that kind of approach. It goes towards, deep skill sets in permaculture design and the like. That's the kind of thing that people want and need.
Right. Well, maybe just a final question: how, given the gravity of what's we're all facing as a country, as a society, how optimistic are you that we can make this transition, that we can pull this off?
Oh, 100%. A lot of people think I'm pessimistic about stuff. Is that I'm pessimistic about the way the system works right now, right? And so, since I can't see how this current system goes forward, people go, "Well, you're a pessimist." And I go, "Well, wait a second. This is a platform change. We've seen this in technology all the time. You go from one old platform to a new platform. The new platform, puts the other one out of business. People just vote with their feet. They vote with their minds. They vote with their hands. And everything is moving towards this local space, this networked local space.
Right.
I mean, you're not doing it in isolation. You're not going up to a cabin and hiding like a prepper. You're actually networking with other folks to create, dynamic environments. Some are commercial, some are just sharing networks or open source. There's a whole new set of, economic games that can be played. We're reinventing stuff. It's across the board. We're reinventing money and with Bitcoin, and we tried a new thing. We're reinventing, work in a variety of different ways with, co-working spaces. It's cool. It's a great place to be. I mean,
yeah. Well, it's very cool, and that's a good segue or transition to the folks at FarmHack, because I think they're right there with you. Dorn and Severine, you all want to just kind of chime in and tell people what you all are up to, a little bit of what you're about, and what you are going to be have on display at Maker Faire?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, FarmHack is just exactly addressing what John was just mentioning. We're farmer-driven community to build the tools for that regenerative agriculture. I think a number of us believe that that agriculture is the basis for that regenerative local economy. We're shifting away from basically extractive economy to something where we're actually growing real value and living on the value we create. And the limiting factor in that isn't natural resources and how fast we can extract them or how efficiently. It's access to the tools and information to be able to understand the systems and natural systems around us. And so FarmHack, which Severine was really key in getting started with the Young Farmers Coalition, because that's the other piece. We need more people engaged in this who are smarter and networked. So there's part of it is the knowledge and sharing it, and the other is just getting more people into that network and that conversation. So and we've got we just launched FarmHack, I think the website maybe last January. We're just getting taking advantage of the amazing low-cost technology, network technology, wikis and forums, and joining those together, I think, to start to document some of the hardware, the tools for this regenerative economy in such a way that anybody in the world could reproduce it. So it's linking the knowledge with local manufacturing.
Got it.
And hopefully accelerating the knowledge exchange. So, and it's focused on farmers who are going to use that technology rather than building companies that are going to patent it and hold it. The idea is to get the feedback and accelerate the process of innovation.
So very much focused on open source and sharing.
Absolutely. Yep. Everything goes up it's under Creative Commons.
Severine, anything you want to add to that, or talk about what folks are going to see at Maker Faire from FarmHack?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a very strong coincidence that you would have a renaissance in the young farmers movement, thousands and thousands of very bright, motivated, ambitious young people who want to go into farming careers, and that would coincide with this technological exchange made possible by these radical new ways of sharing. So we have this new media revolution and these digital platforms like this here, Google Chat, where we're sharing in very unusual ways. And I think that same kind of innovation, those new media innovations, we're bringing also into the local, in-person, human context. So that these young farmers are meeting with the engineers and hackers to work on these projects and in their region and on their farms. So that in-person part, I think, is a really critical part as we were talking about, really regional solutions. In terms of what's happening at FarmHack, at Maker Faire, we're basically bringing a bunch of tools. And we're bringing flame weeders, we're bringing vegetable washing machines, where it's basically a washing machine that we turn into a vegetable washing machine. And we're bringing a lot of bicycle powered equipment, choppers for urban compost. Then finger weeders that were made. One of them actually was made with a 3D printer, one of the parts. Cool. But mostly we're not making stuff from scratch. We're very practical. A lot of the young farmers are resource limited. We're starting farms with not super amounts of money, and so we're often adapting or hacking lower cost parts and working to achieve efficiency and competitiveness with people who are, on a massive scale and exploiting labor and have a big advantage.
Right. One project that I found interesting, I thought maybe you could talk a little about, is the Fido, sort of the greenhouse Arduino-powered surveiller. How do you describe it? What does it do? Talk about some of the technology.
Yeah, well, so I'm an organizer and farmer, and the parts of Fido that I understand, I can explain. But basically, it's a little mini robot that sends you a text message when your greenhouse is too hot, which is great. In March this year, it was 80 degrees. So when the weather's changing and you're running a farm, with limited numbers of people, you want to be able to, run home and open your greenhouse.
Why is that a better solution than, I don't know, something you might get at the farm store? Is it cheaper? Is it more responsive to particular needs, or how does it differ?
You can't buy that at farm store.
There you go. You got to make it.
Yeah.
Dorn, tell him about the oat dehuller.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm going to just quickly respond to the Fido project too. And partly what this is meant to do is respond to farmers' needs very quickly. So we go to the FarmHacks, you come up with an issue, you put a bunch of people together, and Fido is an example. Last fall, we had a FarmHack at our place in New Hampshire. It resulted in basically a prototype being built fairly shortly after, and now it's going to be available in kit form this next year in open source design. And it's going to extend to be able to be used for monitoring electric fences and water and so forth. But it hasn't been... It's being driven by the farmers, the need. So there's no risk from the manufacturing side. You manufacture just what you need. Maybe there's not a mass market, but it's low cost enough that it can be made to address the few people who really can benefit from it. But the the other thing is that we've got a lot of technology that's appropriate, that's become that's no longer manufactured, but is appropriate scale and needs to be updated. So we're posted designs for an oat dehuller that's farm scale. Right now, mostly what's available is, in the $30,000-$40,000 machines, the commercial variety. This will do 150 bushels an hour, and it's powered by a 2-horsepower motor, but there's not a manufacturer for it. But we happened to find the engineering drawings from one of the engineers who was at the company before it went out of business. Those are now posted on FarmHack, and we have a farmer who's contracted a local manufacturer to build a new version based on those drawings. So that, to me, is starting this to express our hope for this kind of economy.
Yeah, that's great. Sort of resurrecting. You don't have to build everything new. Resurrecting technology that's out there that might sort of just, be gone and forgotten. Yeah, great stuff. We
document it well enough. We get it into CAD. We can lower the setup costs for the local manufacturers, and hopefully make improvements, get those back on there, both in manufacturing techniques as well as function.
Good stuff. All right. Well, you mentioned CAD, so there's another segue cue for me. So that's you, Jordan. you're going to be at Maker Faire, so I want to hear what you're doing there. But you're also going to be presenting a scientific paper at the Open Hardware Summit
that's right.
in Manhattan on Thursday. So just kind of run us through the two branches of what you're doing, the sort of hard science, biochemistry aspect of it, and some of these more maker hobbyist applications with 3D printing and sugar and chocolate.
Sure. Yeah, we're working with actually Arduino-based open source 3D printers. So these are the RepRap, if you've heard of that, or the MakerBot. We've actually been using that kind of in two different projects, and I'll be presenting both of those next week. So in one project in the research lab here at University of Pennsylvania, what we've been doing is we've been trying to figure out a really good way to make blood vessels. So we're working in the field of regenerative medicine. And the challenge there is trying to make large assemblies of living cells. So trying to build up cells into tissues, build up tissues into organs. And the big challenge in that field is trying to keep all the cells alive in a big structure like that. And the reason that you can't keep them alive is because you don't have any plumbing. You don't have any blood vessel networks to be able to keep them alive. And so where this overlaps with Macon, with Maker Faire, is what we realized is we could modify the RepRap 3D printer. I guess just how everyone is talking about sort of building up local community and also sort of tapping into the cognitive resources of people all around the world. What we've been doing is we figured out, with working with the online community, how to modify it to print out sugar. And these are edible sugars, and the reason that we're doing that is we can print sort of filament networks of sugar. And these filament networks, they serve as a mold, a sort of temporary template that can then be molded or cast and then into these sort of cellularized gels. So we can keep cells alive next to the sugar. We cross-link this gel, immobilize them, something like Jell-O. So it's like putting cells in a Jell-O-like substance. It's a liquid, it turns to a solid. Then the sugar will go from a solid into a liquid. The sugar will dissolve, and everywhere we had a sugar filament or a sugar vessel network, that becomes a blood vessel network. So separately, oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to back up. And what's the reason for doing this? Why do you want to generate vascular tissue? Is it I mean, someone loses a part of their body and you need to sort of repopulate it with vascular material, or for organs, or what's the application?
Well, there's two goals. So kind of the short-term goal is trying to understand more of how cells interact with each other in something that more represents how they are in your body. Really, the long-term goal, though, as you mentioned, is really organ replacements for people. Yeah. So being able to take someone's own cells, grow them up, make an organ replacement for them, and then give them that organ back, so they don't have to get a transplant. Wow. You know, there's people. There's a really big wait list that it's been around for decades. People waiting for organs, and there's actually people. Unfortunately, there's people that die on that list every year just waiting for an organ for transplant. So that's the sort of the long-term goal of regenerative medicine, is to help the body repair itself.
Okay. Well, then, sort of on the fun side, the hobby side of it, you know, these. We didn't talk about chocolate. How is that just sort of a novel outshoot of it, or does that have practical applications as well?
So the chocolate doesn't have applications yet in the lab, but where this came about is a lot of the stuff that we were doing to figure out how to modify the RepRap to print sugar, we were figuring that out at a local hackerspace, Ohio 76 here in Philadelphia. And I'm also really interested in 3D printing and printing out plastic parts and stuff like that, and we realized the sugar was edible with this new kind of extruder that we have. I think people may have heard of the Frostruder, which is a previous generation extruder that came out of MakerBot. And that was able to print out sort of candy and frosting. But what we did is we modified the Frostruder to be able to be heated, and now we could extrude sugar. And then we realized we could also extrude chocolate. And so what we've been doing now is trying to figure out this whole other side, kind of hobbyist side, of what can we really do with these 3D printed edible foods. So in terms of chocolate, it's instead of chocolate frosting, it's really solid tempered chocolate. So it's very high quality chocolate. It tastes very good. We can make it in basically any shape that you'd want to make anything else that was 3D printed. So people have thought about cake decorations or other things, but
Did that extruder, was that something you all created at Hive 76? Is that your own?
Yeah, yeah, it's my design, my modification of the Frostruder, and that was again released back into the open source community. So that's up on a website called Thingiverse, and yeah, we got a couple hat tips to MakerBot for that.
Nice.
So yeah, it's been a really great great project.
Has any pastry or chocolate makers approached you, or I mean?
Yeah, so we're still working. It's still in the early stages of 3D printing the solid tempered chocolate and the sugar. So that's part of what we're doing at Maker Faire, is trying to see kind of what the community thinks of it, what people have thought might think is the best application for this, and just finding good partners, finding good people that would want to do this. So we have a couple local chocolatiers that we're talking to, that they have kind of that avenue. We also just think it's just cool for people to be able to do at home. So we're looking at sort of scaling up this extruder to something that people could just buy.
So, and you said that weather, humidity is a real factor in being able to print some of these things. So what might we see at Maker Faire?
Yeah, so I think so technically the sugar is easier to print because it happens at a higher temperature, and that's sort of more tolerant of humidity problems. So we'll probably be doing some sugar printing. That'll be there's a 3D maker village, or 3D printer village at Maker Faire. So we'll be in there in the tent in there. And I think we'll also have some 3D printed chocolate structures on display, so people can get some ideas of where we might be able to go with this.
That sounds fantastic. Well, that's it. I just wanted to kind of get a survey of some of the food makers out there, and obviously really broad range of projects and thinking, and it's going to be great. Maybe to conclude, if any of you wants to drop a couple websites or places where people can get more information about what you're up to. John, I mean, you're at resilientcommunities.com. Anything else you would like to pass on to folks?
No, my site is focused on just helping people make that transition, and there's quite a few. And making those hard decisions as to what you do first and what you do second, and how to get that community going and get those local businesses started and things working. So. You'd be surprised how many people are involved, including there's a lot of money starting to flow in this way too, so which is
excellent.
A good thing. Yeah, I mean, people are recognizing that this is needed, and it's going to be the thing that's going to get us through.
Yeah, here.
So great, and yeah, resilientcommunities.com. It's easy. It's just a newsletter. Just sign up, and 3 times a week. I'll talk about different things that I find and people I interview, and how to put it together. All right?
Yeah, thanks. Well, I've been checking it out. It's good stuff. Dorn and Severine, anything you want to add? Where can people get more information?
FarmHack.net, and my organization's called greenstartnh.org. It's Green Start. Severine? Oh, I think we lost Severine's voice.
We're not hearing you, Severine.
Sorry.
There you are. It's that old mute button.
We have kind of a big space at the Maker Faire, so you'll be able to find us. We're bringing a bunch of lettuce, and if you wanted to know more about young farmers, get involved, or figure out what this is that's going on, you can find us. My organization is called the Greenhorns. We're the greenhorns.net. There are young farmers on almost every part of this country, and many of them are using these technologies. So if you're a maker out there and you love farming and food and you want to be a part of the community of food production, consider meeting the farmers near you. It's not virtual. It's not hypothetical. It's like actual. Oh. We'd love to know you.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff. And Jordan, anything else you can drop on us?
Yeah, so the 3D printers, the websites are refrap.org. There's also makerbot.com. You can download that new extruder from thingiverse.com, and our hackerspace is hive76.org.
What's the extruder called? How do you look for it?
It's called the Barracuda. It's Barric, B-A-R-I-C. Barric, like air pressure.
Okay.
That's how it's driven.
Got it.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you all again, and look for us in another couple weeks for what I hope will be another hangout on all things food and Maker. So see you at Maker Fair, and rock on.